All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Want to welcome you all to today's webinar. I feel like it's been a little while since we've done one of these. I think we took the month of May off because of our conferences that we were holding. So it's good to be back, and we've got a great crowd. So thank you guys for joining us today, where we're going to have Joe Andersson talking about how to set up an ultrasound program. So perfect, obviously, for what we do and for our audience. So we're looking forward to hearing what Joe has to say about all that. So just a couple housekeeping items, as I like to always go over. I am recording this, so if you have to hop off early or if you've got colleagues who couldn't make it, we'll definitely have this available on our website later this afternoon, so you can check it out when your schedule permits. So that's important to note. We also love to get questions throughout the presentation. You can just type those in. There's a little questions box where you can type those questions in throughout the session. I'll be keeping an eye on those while Joe's going through his presentation, and we'll get those asked as it's appropriate during the presentation if someone needs clarification, or of course at the end we'll have some time then as well. Just so you know, depending on some of the questions, if they're a little more specific towards UE systems and our equipment, I might just have someone from our team get in touch with you afterwards and keep the questions to what Joe is going to be able to answer best. And, you know, we are doing this live, so I always like to throw out the little disclaimer if we have any technical difficulties, if audio goes in or out or any internet issues, we'll try and get those resolved as quickly as we can, so just bear with us. But again, we do love being able to do these live and kind of have the ability to interact with folks. So just we just know that that's a little bit of a risk that we might take. So with that, I'm going to stop yammering and I'm going to let Joe take over. He's got a lot of great information to share from over 20 years of being in this business. So I think you'd all rather hear what he has to say. So with that, Joe, welcome. I'm going to toss the screen to you and let you take it away.
Right. I want to thank everybody for getting on today. I appreciate you guys putting up with me. So hopefully this is beneficial to you, and I hope that it adds value. Today we're going to talk about how to set up an ultrasound program, just based on some of the things that I've been through my career. I know everybody has their own way of doing it. I guess this would be more geared towards what I've faced. So I hope that it helps you out. So I want to start with some assumptions. When starting an ultrasound program, there's assumptions that have to be made. One is that you've already decided who's going to be using the tools, and you have the approval to buy the equipment. If you don't, that might be a separate topic to discuss on a webinar. But the goal here is that you're beginning with the assumptions that you have the approval to buy the equipment and you have people that can utilize the equipment. So first, you want to start by defining the plan. What is it that you want to accomplish? What is the budget that you're going to set aside for ultrasound? And what are the metrics that you're going to measure? I give a list of metrics. I don't measure them all the time. It just depends on what we're focused on. But the goal is to have a plan. What is it that you're wanting to develop? What are your goals? What are some of the things you need to do to accomplish those goals? In my plan, the way I have my vision is to have a world-class reliability department. I do run a reliability organization. If I was a maintenance manager, what I've done in the past is I would fix my planning and scheduling first so that I'm utilizing my labor to its fullest extent, giving me the ability to free up people to be able to do some of the PDM technologies. And then from there, I restructure the department and set aside mechanics to utilize the tools. So if that's where you're at, that's kind of how I've done it. My goal is to have a best-in-class predictive maintenance program, with the objective being to have a best-in-class ultrasound program. And then I listed some example tasks. These aren't all of them, but I just sit and list out what are all the things that we need to do to be best in class. And then I also follow that up by a set of beliefs and values. An example would be reliability is everyone's responsibility, not just the maintenance department. It's operations, engineering, safety, quality, all of your other departments. It's everyone's responsibility. Safety equals reliability. Same thing, quality equals reliability. Reliability is a business system. Then from there, the budget. Just remember to budget for things like calibrations of the tools, maybe acquiring some of the new tools or attachments or accessories, for training, or possibly if you want to do some local monitoring of systems or whatever, get quotes, get a budget established, and try to build it into your budget. If not this year, build it into it next year, so you have the ability to launch an ultrasound program. Some of the metrics that I measure would be percentage of error leaks found versus fixed. Cost savings and avoidance is probably the most important one for me. That's how I sell the value of what we're doing to the organization, which I'll get into that a little bit later. The program ROI, how much did you spend versus how much have you saved? Returning that ROI shows the fact that that program is returning a profit, which in turn makes you a profit center within that specific area. The goal is to show yourself profitable, to sell the value of it to the organization. Asset health on machines monitored. So what I do here is all the PDM technologies that we're using versus all the equipment that we're monitoring, how many defects are in the system. That gives me an asset health percentage to understand what my asset health is. A percentage of corrective work from ultrasound finds. I like to know what percentage of my PDM versus PM tasks are, so I track some of that. A percentage of ultrasound recommendations implemented. This is something, if I'm doing a project or trying to sell the value, this is one of the first metrics that I would use to make sure that things are being executed on and fixed. Percentage of plant survey completed. My goal right now is to annually complete an air survey. And so we split the plant up into areas and we survey those positions. And then same with the steam traps, same with the electrical survey. You could do precision lubrication as well, depending on what it is that is driving the need for your ultrasound program. Those are the things that you're going to want to focus on. If you're seeing lubrication failures as one of your top failure modes, then you want to implement a precision lubrication program, and then you want to measure that so that you can drive the change. As far as training goes, UE offers a ton of resources. Schedule a free on-site. If you don't have a program yet, have them come out, speak to them, and let them kind of tell you the direction that you need to go. Get to know your sales representative, because he'll be a great resource for you. Schedule a 2.5 day to kind of introduce the technologies, and then schedule a level 1 course and integrate more people into it than just your reliability guys. Try to get some operations guys, try to get safety, quality, whoever into a level 1 course so they understand the value of ultrasound and what it is you're trying to do. It's a great way to communicate across the plant what it is you're trying to do. Utilize your online resources. UE Systems has a ton of online resources that you can use. If you're stuck on anything, it can almost be answered off of their website. If not, that's why you need to know the sales rep. Set aside time in the technician's schedule to practice with the tools. Get them out in the field using them. I see a lot of times in a lot of places that I go to, or managers that I speak with, that they'll do a level 1 course and the gun will sit for a year. And then somebody will decide it's time to use it. Well, by then, they've already forgotten everything they've known. If you want to be best in class, you got to get them out there using the tools. Also, make sure your people are executing. That requires management follow-up and some leadership and direction. Make sure that people are executing on the things they say they're doing, making sure that the leaks are fixed. One of the things that I do is I make my guys take a before and after photograph with the UE gun, the 15,000 probe, showing the decibel reading after they fix a leak. and hopefully at 0, but it depends on where the leak is and if there's other turbulence around the gun. But that, 1, it covers you and the fact that you fixed it, and it shows that it's fixed. And 2, it covers the technician, showing that they've executed the work, as well as putting the work orders in the system and tracking that. So the next thing I do, once my plan is developed, I sit with a group of guys and say, let's take a schematic of the plant and let's divide it into zones. The facility I'm in here is very large. If it's a smaller facility, you may not need to do this, but I'm in a large facility. So what I do is divide it into 12 zones. I have 1 zone a month that they focus on, whether it's air leaks or the electrical survey or the precision lubrication. We don't have as many steam traps, so we can do that on a quarterly basis, the entire steam route, and we kind of do it that way. So we divide it up into zones, and then we focus on the zone. Zone 1 would be January, zone 2 is February, zone 3 is March, etc., etc. So I just kind of go about doing it that way. That way, at least you know annually that your plant has an air leak survey done, and that's something that you can speak to. And the goal is to drive down your electrical costs, and you should be able to track that electrical trend as the costs drop, and you should be able to capture that as a hard savings in the end. And then tackle it one bite at a time. What I see is we want to do 58 things because we're excited and we know it works, and we try to do all 58 at once, and that just doesn't work. And you do one thing at a time, get good at it, and move on to the next, and continue to do it that way. Don't try to do everything at once. And then when setting up routes, the key here is to become efficient at the routes. It's just like wrench time. You want to be as efficient as possible on your routes so that they're not wasting time, and it frees them up to do other work. So you're executing more work in the same amount of time. Okay. Keys to setting up routes, I believe, is 1, it's based on your critical asset list. You want to implement the technology on your critical assets, making the route most efficient. For example, in the drawing that I have here, on one side, these would be an example of our ammonia compressors, and they walk down one side of it and then turn around and come down the other. The reason for that is that the areas that they have to take the readings to walk in and out through there and then go to the next one is just really inefficient because they're such large machines, and they'd have to run around and do that. So what we do is we have them take readings on one side and then they take readings on another, so that it's a more efficient route. Then begin taking your baselines and begin to monitor and train your baselines, which is a goal, especially for precision lubrication and identity of defects, so you understand the condition of your machine. Then you can set these routes up based on what it is you're trying to do. The electrical inspections are a little different for us. We have so many MCCs, and they're all over the plant, so we set those up a little different. UE developed a maturity matrix. Use it as a guide. Use it as an assessment as to where you are in current state, and circle all the boxes as to where you want to be in future state. And this will help you develop your plan as to where you want to go. And then what are the gaps and what are the tasks that you need to develop in order to achieve, whether it's that best practice level or the world-class level in the maturity matrix, so that you know whether or not the things you're focusing on are right. I use these in everything I do. So now selling the value. I want to spend time on selling the value for the simple fact is I think this is the most negated part of the entire program. I think we're really good at going out and executing and doing work. I think a lot of people fail at selling the value of what we do. You don't sell the value of what you do, they'll shut the whole program down. I've been through it before. Here previously, the place I'm at now used to have a reliability program. They had a reliability program for 5 years, and they were doing everything, but no one knew what they were doing. And because no one knew what they were doing, they just said reliability doesn't work and we don't need them anymore. And they ended up cutting that out of the business. And so now we're trying to revitalize the program and doing it right by selling the value of what we do. One of the easiest ways to sell value is using the tools that UE system provides. They provide, for example, the spreadsheet for your air leaks and your air leak survey and what the costs are, and give you a decibel reading, give you ability to track work orders if you want to utilize that, and give you a cost of what your identified versus your repaired are, and it gives you your metric for percentage of complete, which is one of the metrics that I use. I say when you see the red, I would say that would be a cost avoidance if it's fixed. Once it's fixed, try to capture it as a hard savings. I work closely with the plant controller to look at utility bills, utility spend, as well as if for example, we're renting 2 air compressors. They were costing us between fuel, rental, and labor about $1.2 million a year to rent 2 air compressors. And we're currently got rid of the air compressors. And so I capture that as well. That's almost $1.5 million saved using a $15,000 tool. Right. So that gives you a huge ROI and a huge ability to sell the value. You just freed up $1.2 million of cash flow in the business for them to utilize in something else, which is great. Here's an example of the way I communicate failures and things that we find as a team. This would be just the typical email I'd send out I send it to the president and the vice president of the company, as well as all the directors, the plant leadership, and as many of the maintenance folks as I can. I want everybody to see the good things that we're doing. What you have to understand as an upper level manager is most of your day is normally in a reactive environment, is filled with bad news. So your president and your VP, they're looking for something good. And when you send out this email, I almost guarantee you they're going to respond, and it's going to be positive. And the reason for that is they see something good that's happening, and there's a glimmer of hope. And they love it. I've never had anybody say, "Don't ever send me that stuff again." I think it's a great way to communicate and sell the value, and send it to everybody. And everything you can do as a manager, I would capture and send out in an email, and get that out there. Another thing we're working on right now is a reliability newsletter to email to the organization to show the things we're doing within our department. I think it's a great thing, as well as putting in training tips, safety tips, whatever it is that would benefit the organization to help drive the culture change needed to develop a reliability culture of reliability. So this is something that we're working on as well. So execution and implementation. Again, you have to build time into their schedule to go out in the field and use the tools. The biggest thing would be if you have to install remote sensors and things like that, all that needs to be built into the schedule, and you've got a plan for that execution as well, and then be ready to launch your implementation. Encourage them to use the tools, anybody to use the tools, any chance they get, anybody, even operators. We're getting to the point where we're going to have operations stepping up to do more maintenance, and one of the tools I'd like to get in their hand is a UE probe. One is it helps them hear things that they wouldn't normally see during an inspection, which is something they can appreciate. When you give them the proper tools to do the job, your operators can help you with PM inspections and defect identification. Make sure you go and do based off of the plan. And every day you should look at the plan and you should follow up on the plan. What did we get accomplished today? And that plan should be ever evolving. You should be continually improving it. Don't wait for perfection. I know we want to set up a system, and we've got to do all this pre-work before we can launch the system. But I would say you don't. Just go and do it. Don't wait for perfection. Improve it as you're implementing it. And of course, that leads to continuous improvement. You've got to always improve. Every year I hear of new ways that the Ultra Probe is being used. One of them this year was the tuning of motors by use of the Ultra Probe, and that just blew my mind as something I never thought about. I want to share with you some things that I come up with a list of different ways that maintenance and reliability sell value, and this applies to ultrasound as well. So each bucket at the top, and then each box is a way that what you're doing sells value to the things that you're doing. So reliability, using
Hey,
the
Joe.
quality box.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Your audio was getting a little garbled there for a minute, so I don't know if you were doing anything different or not, but just
No.
um,
No worries.
hopefully it'll get back to normal. It sounds okay now, but I just letting you know. So you might want
Okay.
to restate the last couple sentences.
Okay. So this chart at the top is different areas of the business where reliability and maintenance affect. So an example, your top box there with quality, elimination of quality incidents. The way you eliminate quality, for example, would be form material rejects, things like loose bolts or bad bearings where balls fall out of bearings and get into the product. You can improve quality by finding those defects early on and fixing the problem. Okay. Document for quality compliance using Ultra Probes.
Oh, yeah, Joe, I don't know.
Or
Maybe your connection was getting lost there. You're getting jarbled again.
it's possible.
Okay, could just be weak internet signal there for a second. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm in Kansas. What do you expect? So,
Okay.
all right. Elimination of food safety incidents are great. And then ways to help improving the material. For example, you have a case packer, helping them with quality specs on the case packer so that you're not introducing defects into the system due to bad cardboard. From a service perspective, you're getting better teamwork and communication if you're working with the service department. Improve understanding of customer requirements. If you understand what the end state is as a big picture, you understand what it is you need to do to take care of your assets to meet those customer requirements. On the production side, of course, those are the easier ones: increased throughput, increased asset availability, more flexibility, eliminating chronic failures, those types of things. Yield improvement's a big one. The cost bucket is, but I don't think we brag about it enough. Optimizing the PM programs and reducing scheduled maintenance. The Ultra Probe has done wonders reducing scheduled maintenance for us, and becoming efficient at our routes frees us up even more to do more work. Reduce contract work. When I started here, I think 64% of our work was done by contractors. So utilizing and implementing tools and doing your programs well will give that work back to your folks and reduce your cost of contract overhead. Yeah, reduce overtime. I know some people don't want to hear that, but it's good business. A lot of people don't want to work overtime unless they want to. So being able to do that. Longer asset life always extends, saves costs, lower utilities, etc. Time is a big one. Time is something that you can't get back. So when something has failed, you can't get that time back, so it pushes your schedule off, and you miss orders, or you have to run into the weekends, which costs overtime. Extended intervals for needed rebuilds or overhauls is a good one for time. You might not have to take something down annually. You might be able to move it to once every 2 years or once every 5 years if the reliability is there. From a safety perspective, you're going to reduce safety incidents. For example, with the UE, going in and doing your MCCs with an ultra probe and identifying potential arc flash, corona, or tracking, that will reduce a safety incident from occurring, as long as you execute on the fines. It reduces the need for invasive tasks. You're touching the machines less, reducing the intensive labor work because you're finding the defects early on in their failure, where you're only replacing a bearing versus replacing an entire assembly. So you reduce the risk of safety incidents that way. Environmental, there's a million things in environmental. You reduce emissions and pollution and energy, carbon footprint, waste, those types of things. With your storeroom, you're using higher quality parts is a good one, fewer stockouts, those types of things. From a risk perspective, again, we discussed risk with the ultra probe and arc flash, but you're mitigating those risks by using something without opening a bucket. Environmental incidents are the same way, and the same with high consequence items on higher voltages. Energy management, we all know the value of ultrasound with energy management, but your organization probably doesn't. It promotes a green perception, and that's through corporate social responsibility is a great way to push the fact that an ultra probe will promote a green perception. It promotes, conservation, those types of things. From a legal perspective, when you don't have safety incidents, you don't have lawsuits or claims or any of those types of things, or from a quality perspective with foreign material components from a legal perspective. So there's a ton of ways that you're affecting the overall business by what you do. If you understand these things, it will help you to sell the value of what it is you're doing. Logistics, the biggest thing for them is plant stability. With a stable plant, you can sell volume. If your volume's all over the place, then they fear that they can't run, so they overstock on inventory, tying up cash flow and inventory because assets are unreliable. And then capacity assurance is a big one as well, understanding that this is what we're capable of, and we can hit those numbers with confidence. Then you got the engineering perspective, with helping with life cycle cost, helping do capital planning, those types of things. As you're trending on equipment, the failures and failure modes that you're finding with the ultra probe, it gives them data to be able to make good decisions when they go to acquire new assets. From a sales and marketing perspective, plant stability, faster speed to market, because your ability to run product is there. You're reducing the cost of goods sold, which helps them lower costs in the market, so that you're arming them with something to go to bat for. Board of directors, you're enhancing public image, the green perception. You can increase market share if you're a lower cost producer, increase profit margin, whatever it is. Things tied to the board as well as the shareholders. Higher margins and improved revenue are a big thing for shareholders, including yourselves if you own stock in the company. So there's more than just the financials to sell the value of your program to the organization. So in summary, I know it was short and sweet, but Your goals should align with the overall organizational objectives. You should invest in your people. Training, continuous improvement, cross-training others, it's important. You want to have the best people within your facility to accomplish the tasks that you've set forward. Keep it simple. Again, don't wait for perfection. Just go out and do it, and then continue the process. A lot of people get held up because they don't feel like it's good enough to launch, but it's so easy with the Ultra Probe to get your return on investment. So just go out and do it. Communication is key. Again, when problems are found on the floor, communicate to whoever it is you need to. Make sure you have a work order in the system. There's multiple ways to communicate those things, and then follow up. And then, of course, sell the program benefits. This is the most important piece to the program as you set up your program. And then show the value, not just financially, but show in all the areas that you can benefit the organization. So it'll open the door of opportunity for you to do other things. And that would be the key for me. So again, just remember, sell value, sell value, sell value. That's about all for me. If you have any questions, Marie, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, all right. So one question, someone wanted some clarification on how you were able to get rid of the compressors that saved you that nice chunk of coin. So I don't know if you want to talk to that
Fixing
again.
my air leaks.
Okay.
So the reason we had the compressors is we had so many air leaks in our facility that we couldn't keep up with plant demand. So they started by renting one, and then the leaks got worse, and they rented another. And it was a little bit of a fight at first to sell the organization on the fact that we need to fix air leaks. But once we started doing it, we started noticing the reduced air consumption, and we got rid of one fairly quickly. The second one took a little longer to get rid of, but we were able to get rid of it. We fixed the air leaks, we got our compressors going, and everything's well.
Nice. Yeah, those little air leaks, people don't necessarily give them the respect they always deserve. So that's a good little lesson there. Someone was wondering if you could go back to the slide where you were talking about the environmental impact again. I think they just wanted to see some of that info and maybe have it.
Let's see. Yep.
All right. They didn't have a specific question, but at least looking at it, there you go. All right, and if that person, if you wanted more info, just type that in. Otherwise, we'll keep that on there. Let's see. What are the biggest? If
not as well, my email address is at the end, so they can email me if they want a copy of the presentation. I can send it to them.
Okay, perfect. That's good because I had a couple other folks ask that if you would be able to share that. All right, what is the biggest cost savings to go after with the ultrasound program? Which I know you can probably answer that a couple different ways, but
well, it depends on what your facility problem is.
There you go.
But normally it's air leaks. Going out and fixing air leaks is the quickest return on investment. You can spend a month doing air leaks and you'll get, probably 3 to 10 times return on the investment in 1 month if you just spent time doing that. So I would say the Ultra Probe out of all the technologies is the quickest to return on investment.
All right.
And that's just fixing air leaks. That's not everything else it can be used for.
Right. All right. So then someone just chimed in on a little more clarification on the leaks. So they're saying once you find the leaks, how do you manage to save money by fixing the leaks? Can you clarify that a little bit more, or maybe talk a little bit about how you all actually calculate those savings? Maybe that's more the.
So we calculate it as an avoidance based on the spreadsheet. But at the end of the year, we track our energy usage year over year. And normally electricity doesn't go down. It normally goes up. So they know of the energy things that we're doing on the energy end. We track our monthly electrical bills and we trend those. So example, 2 years ago, our electric bill was almost $5.5 million in this facility. This last year, it was $4 million. $4 million. So they were able to attribute the reduced energy to the ultrasound stuff, so we got credit for it. Now, if they're doing a lighting project or something like that, it's a little more difficult because they're going to try to rob some of those savings as well, and those are rightfully deserved. But that's a discussion you have to have with the engineering group that's doing that project.
All right, the questions are really flying in now. So it seems we've talked, you kind of re-clarified a little bit on the air leak side, but lots of people looking for a little more information on what specifically you guys have used ultrasound for on the mechanical side. So maybe if you want to talk to that a little bit about how you guys are using ultrasound for mechanical inspections and lubrication.
Most of it is bearing trending that we're using in pumps, checking for cavitation. So example is our ammonia compressors we're doing are trending on all the bearings on ammonia compressors, on all of our oven blowers, on condenser tower units, and on hydraulic power packs. And then we check pumps regularly for cavitation. That's a random thing that we're doing because we're seeing an issue. We don't do it as a trend, but just trying to drive a problem out of the system. Somebody had adjusted a hydraulic valve, and we were able to find that and get that system corrected. So.
All right. And are you using any vibration in conjunction with your ultrasound program?
Yeah, we just launched online vibration monitoring on our ammonia compressors. The only reason we're trending bearings now is for precision lubrication with the UltraPro. So we have online systems there, and then we have big mixers and some other large assets that we are doing vibration with.
Okay. All right. Sorry, they're really coming in, so I want to make sure I get some good ones here. All right. So, all right. So we kind of touched more on mechanical, and there's some folks who have some kind of pretty specific questions about the lubrication process and using ultrasound. So for those of you that are asking those, I think what's best is if we follow up with you guys offline. We've actually got some webinars that I can send the recordings to where we go over every little bit of detail on that. So that's probably more helpful. But now some folks are asking about on the electrical side, are you using infrared in addition to your ultrasound inspections?
Yes. Some of it is obligatory through our insurance company, doing your MCC buckets and some of those types of things. But that's an annual inspection. What we do is we set up routes in our MCC rooms on a monthly basis. We hit certain MCCs, and then if we hear any abnormalities, we tape the bucket with a colored electrical tape, and then we'll come back and suit up and just shoot those buckets that we've identified defects in. So that's kind of the way we do it there. We also have transformers, and then we have things like that we're using, as well as one of our power stations out here. We use the long range cone and go out and do inspections on those as well.
Cool. And would you mind scrolling back to the end so people can be noting your email address as we're answering these questions? Okay, cool. So there's his email address, everybody. Okay, let's see. We've got time, so might as well, folks have to run, but we might as well get some more of these questions answered. I think this is kind of the good stuff, right? All right. Let's see here. Can you talk about the challenges in integrating your ultrasound monitoring with your CMMS program? And I don't know if you mentioned which program you're using, but they were hoping it was SAP. Okay, so maybe talk a little bit about how you're doing that with SAP. We've obviously got another SAP user here.
All we're doing is every defect identified has a work order put to it. That's not even a question. So even if the guys go out and they can fix the leak right there in place, they'll write a work order up and they'll close out the work order. You have them labeled as just PDM. Basically, at this point, I would like to get our tasking broken out by technology so I can label each work order by the technology, but we're just not there yet. So, but I can look up PDMs, and under PDMs, it'll show all the air leaks and things that we fix. That's what we do.
All right. And back to air leaks. Someone was asking, how does your electricity bill go down once you fix the leaks? Does fixing the leaks have a connection with lowering the capacity of your main compressor?
Yes. So your compressors, normally when you have a million leaks, are running fully loaded, full bore all the time, and they pull down from your power grid. Amperage through your power grid, depending on what kind of agreement you have with the power company, you can get penalized for going over certain amperages. So the goal is that through fixing air leaks, your compressors aren't running as hard, or you're even backing them off to the point, for example, at Schreiber Foods, we had 5 air compressors and we were able to shut 2 of them down and only run 3. And we had 2 redundant air compressors to the point to where we could do maintenance on them and it didn't affect production, as well as we weren't running those 2 for an entire year. So anytime you can cut electrical usage out by fixing air leaks, it's going to drop your electrical bill.
All right. Let's see. I promise that someone is asking this. Have you found that UE Systems spreadsheet to be fairly accurate in predicting cost savings and reduced energy consumption?
It's close. It depends on if you're pulling your air leak data right, if you have the cone far enough away from the leak. If you're right up on the leak, you should be about 15 inches away from the leak to get an accurate recording. If you're right up on the leak, it's going to give you a higher decibel reading and falsify your information. So the goal is to understand the tool and how to use it properly, making sure that you're about 15 inches away from the leak and using that decimal. And then so we run about 95 PSI in our facility, but when I capture it in the spreadsheet, I always want to be conservative. So I drop the supply drop pressure to 75. So it gives me an actual lower savings so that I am conservative when I report my losses. So, but yeah, it's fairly accurate as long as you're doing it right out on the floor.
There you go. All right. And still kind of along those lines, and since you've worked in a couple different locations, what kinds of, benefits have you found as far as, the environmental efforts you've made, whether it be like tax breaks that a state might provide or things like that? Maybe talk to that and how folks can learn more about what they might be able to apply for or get depending on what state they're living in.
Well, I haven't done anything with ultrasound as far as working with states and grants, but energy reduction things you can do for grants are things like putting everything on VFDs, lighting projects, those types of things. With ultrasound, I haven't done any of that. But as far as environmental impact, you reduce energy consumption, you're reducing your overall carbon footprint, which is good for the environment. And, so honestly, I haven't really done anything from an ultrasound perspective.
All right. And if folks are really interested in that, you can get in touch with us because I know we've had other presentations where some specific, where we've got some links and things we can send to kind of help.
I think you even have an ebook on your website.
Yeah, our energy
Yeah.
Yep, we do have an ebook on energy conservation with ultrasound, so we can get that to folks who are interested as well. All right, let's do just a couple more on some more bearing ones came in. Are you sorry, hold on a second. Let me see which ones here I wanted to say. So with your lubrication program, who's doing your greasing? Are they out there using the grease caddies? How are you, using
Yep.
ultrasound?
My reliability techs, our precision lubrication routes are communicated to the maintenance department not to touch. Those are ours. We own them. So our guys do all the lubrication on the assets that we monitor. But we're also working, we do a lot on the facility side as well, working with facilities maintenance. The facilities maintenance guys come and get a technician from us. We'll schedule a time to go out there and they'll go do the PM with them. And then kind of introduce them to the technology. It gives them the ability to get their hands on it. But normally it's my guys that do all that stuff on the assets that we monitor.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was a that was a lot of questions, a little firing squad there, but I appreciate you taking the time to get through those. Um, some of the questions, as I mentioned kind of at the beginning, and I've been typing to some of you that were asking, we'll definitely get someone from UE Systems to follow up so we can get some more specific information out to those of you with some pretty specific ultrasound related questions. So if we didn't get to your question, either someone from UE Systems will get in touch, or I'll be sure I send these questions over to Joe too, so you guys can connect offline. And then of course he's got his email address up here. And I think, you certainly might want to find Joe on LinkedIn. He'd be a great person to connect with and share some information that way as well. So with that, Joe, thank you so much for coming and sharing all that information. Again, for those of you that are still with us, we did record this, so I'll have this up on our website, within the next 30 minutes or so, so you can check it out or share it as you need to. But obviously, lots of great information, and if you are looking for even more information, which it seems some folks are, I just want to point out we now have 3 different online training courses that we've launched. We've got one on mechanical inspections and lubrication, our compressed air survey course, and our very newest, just launched last week, our electrical inspection online training course. So these are really great opportunities for those of you who are trying to dig in a little bit more on the different applications to take these classes whenever, wherever. They're all online. You take them at your own pace. They're interactive, so you're answering questions and kind of testing yourself throughout. I think they're really well done. So it's a great resource if these are topics that you need to learn more about because you're about to start implementing one of these applications, or if you are already in the midst of it and just really want to dig in and learn more. We have these available for you. Our STEAM one will be coming out later in this year, so look for that as well, and then we'll pretty much have everything covered. So check those out on our website. We also have a new product that we're going to be launching very, very soon, our forecast, which is going to be for continuously monitoring your bearings. It's going to be really awesome. We're really excited about it, and we'll have more information coming out on our website later this week and out via email, which I love to send, as you all know, hopefully next week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I think for those of you that are doing mechanical inspections, it's going to be a really cool thing for you all. So keep your eyes open. And with that, just want to make sure everybody knows, where you can find us when we're not doing these webinars on our UltraProbe users group on LinkedIn. Great place to have conversations, even some of these questions and comments from today's webinar. It's a great place to continue those offline. Well, not still online, but you know what I mean. So definitely utilize your peers, folks like Joe that have been doing this a long time and have good experience. But I know folks like Joe are also in there trying to learn from you all as well. So it's a really good place to do all of that. So definitely hook up with us there. And I'll leave our contact info up here. And like I said, we'll be in touch with those of you that had questions that didn't get answered with some follow-up info. And we'll be back with another webinar next month. We'll have more info on that soon. And Joe, thanks again for spending some time with us this afternoon. You're obviously a busy guy, so we'll let you get back to it, and we'll let everybody else head off and enjoy the rest of their day. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you in July.